Next, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker today. Daniel T. Adams is here with us. He wrote this book right here. It is called Beyond the Gate. Well, I'll tell you what, you can talk to Daniel about that when he comes up here. Now, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Daniel, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit. I'm going to let him really speak about the medicine that he carries and brings forth into the world. And Daniel also is a prolific musician besides just a writer. So he is multi-talented. He also speaks, obviously speaking engagements as well. So he is here today to share his talents, his wisdom, and his own private pathway and journey, and some of the experiences and the wisdom that he's gained in overcoming those experiences to be the successful person that he is today. So please, a round of applause, and let's welcome Daniel.
How you guys doing today? First of all, I just want to thank you guys. It's an honor to be here. When Mike and Diana first offered this opportunity to me, I was like, tell me when and where, because I want to be there. And it's not because I have some type of profound wisdom and the meaning of life and all that jazz, but it's because when I heard the story of what they do with the Orange Duffel Bag Initiative, you guys inspire me. And the fact that I get to stand before you today is an honor for me. So first of all, thank you for that. A little bit about myself. I am Daniel T. Adams. I am a bass guitarist in a Christian rock band, True Witness. I am the author of Beyond the Gate, this is my novel here, as well as I recently started my own video production and design company. I am the husband of that beautiful woman back there. And we have a son who's turning 2 next month. So I'm doing many hats. He melts my heart, I can tell you. I never realized how sensitive I can be until you see that little boy in your arms, and it melts you. It really does. But yeah, there you go. You know, I see you with the child. Yeah. But I want to talk today about my journey as an author, because when I first had a desire, and I know that was the first rule of the road, that began in the 5th grade for me. I knew at that moment, I was this little kid, as funny looking as I am now, walking down the aisles of my school library, just wishing to someday be able to have a book that I could put on the shelf with all the greats out there. And that's when my journey began. The music thing, that came later on, the video and the web stuff, that came later on, but my main desire in life was to be a writer. I always considered myself a storyteller, and so that's where I want to begin today. Now, one thing when I talked to Sandy, is she told me, I think earlier on in your classes, one of the things you did was chose a picture that kind of depicted your backstory. And then another picture that you had to choose that kind of depicted where you wanted to go. So I thought I would kind of share in that today, in that exercise. And so here's a picture. I don't know how well you can see it, but this picture to me represents my backstory. And if you notice, it's a boat, and it's out at sea, and it's storming, and the waves are rough. That depicts my backstory. And the reason why, I'm just going to briefly touch on this, is because if you think about the ocean can be a beautiful thing. I don't know if you guys have ever been at the beach, the sunlight, the salt air, it's amazing. Okay, but when I was younger, probably around the 5th, 6th grade, I had a friend of mine who had a boat, and he invited me out to the boat one time, and they had this raft they would tie to the back of the boat, and they'd go out and they'd drive around in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. This was down in Florida. And it was great. So it was my time on the raft, and I get on, I'm holding on as tight as I can, and then they're spinning around in circles, and I hit a wave, and I go flying off, and I'm out there bobbing in the water. They don't even know I'm gone. They're still jetting down in the water. And I'm sitting there, and I would have been excited. It was a beautiful day, the sun was out, blue sky, the salt air, everything was perfect. But the sad part was, probably weeks prior, I had watched a movie called Jaws. So here I am, sitting out in the middle of the ocean. Instead of enjoying all this beauty that's around me, all I can picture is some menacing creature seeing these 2 little chubby legs dangling in the water, closer and closer. And I was terrified. I was screaming like a little child because I could just picture that. And so that's one reason I chose this picture, was because of the ocean. Because there's such a depth to underneath that water, underneath all that beauty that you really don't know about. And that unknown causes a lot of fear. And so for me in my life, there was a lot of unknown growing up. And so I had a lot of fear, a lot of things that I I struggled with. And later on, the storms were to come. See, I thought I was living in a nice, beautiful ocean. And I really wasn't. Because it was probably years later, around the age of 17, when I looked at my life and I said, you know what, I'm tired of living in the fears. I'm tired of being this fake person. I'm tired of just being so, feeling like I don't have a purpose. And so for me, I said, God, I'm yours. And that was the decision I made in my life. And to me, it was a great decision. Because I really felt loved at that moment. But the people who were supposed to love me the most, and my parents, that wasn't okay with them. And at that moment, they said, you're gone. And I had no place to go, and I had some clothes in a garbage bag. And I didn't know what to do. And I can be honest with you when I tell you that was the most broken I'd ever been in my life. Because not only was that a hard thing to go through, I know we've all gone through things, but the thing that hurt me the most is I had emulated them my entire life. So when I looked in a mirror, that's what I saw, that I was. I was fake. I wasn't real. I wasn't genuine. And so I had to make a choice in my life. And God brought a family to me that took me in, that encouraged me, that told me, you know what, you can be whatever you want to be. You have purpose. You were created for a reason. You're in love. Beyond whatever happened to you in the past, whatever you've done in the past, none of that matters. It doesn't matter about the backstory. What matters is what you're going to do from this point on. And so, at this point, I started thinking, well, maybe I can, be a writer. But of course, I had to put that to the back because I had to actually do things to stop treading water. I had to get a job. I had to find a way to take care of myself and bring in money and do all these things. So writing kind of got put to the back burner for a little bit. Later on, as I'm living this life and I'm growing and I'm making changes that are positive in my life, things that where I'm turning away from the old life and becoming something new. And again, I said, God, whatever you want me to do, let me know. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, maybe I'll be a writer. Maybe tell me to be a writer and I'll write. But no, he said, you're going to play bass guitar in a band. I said, what? I don't do music. That's not my thing. I didn't grow up, to be a musician. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a storyteller. I always felt I had a natural ability to tell stories. But I said, okay, I'll learn the craft of music. And so again, writing got kind of put to the back burner. And I dove into learning the bass guitar, how it worked within music, how it didn't work within certain songs, what to do in certain areas, what not to do in certain areas. And I got to tell you, that was probably the greatest decision I ever made to actually do that. Because as we started writing music and we started recording music, and then we started taking that music out on the road, and we got to share it with people. And you get to share your life with people that you meet on the road. And for the longest time, I thought I was the only person who ever went through something so tragic in my life. But I began to find out, no, there were other people just like me who went through very similar situations. And I began to hear their story, and I began to learn how to overcome these things. And it was the greatest journey of my life, but it took me to have to make a stand. To make a stand in my past, to say, I'm not going to go back to this. I'm not going to return it. I had to forgive it. I could hold bitterness. But I didn't have to be that. I didn't have to be that unknown, fearing ocean anymore. I could actually enjoy the blue skies. I could enjoy the nice surf, the smell of the salt air. I was able to do that finally in my life. But it took me having to make a stand. And the coolest thing about, if you've ever been to the ocean and you ever make a stand, I challenge you, if you ever go to the beach again, stand in the water. Put your feet in the water. And just stand there. Don't wiggle around, don't jump around, just stand there. Focus on the sun as it streams across the water to you. And the waves, they're coming, because they're constant. It's funny to think about the ocean. They're always there. They're always coming. Just like life, waves are always happening. You can't stop that. You cannot stop the waves. You can choose to stand. There's a great book called Inside the Wind by an author named Christine Bowen, right over there. And she says in the book, your stand is made in your heart, not on your feet. So you have to make that decision. I'm going to stand. And I'm not going to let anybody tell me I can't do it. I'm not going to let anybody tell me I'm not good enough. I'm just going to stand. And when you stand there, the funny thing about the waves, as they're trying to knock you over, guess what they're actually doing? They're moving all the sand on the ocean floor. And it's moving around your feet. And your feet are now becoming more firm in the sand. Your foundation is growing stronger. So the waves that actually are trying to knock you over are in fact making you stronger if you just make the choice to make a stand. To make a stand to all that stuff that's not good for you. to make a stand from all the people in your life who say, you're not good enough. It was the hardest thing I had to do in my life, but I can guarantee you it was the best choice of my life. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what about the writing? Well, didn't have time to write. I had music I was doing, we were recording, we were touring, and it, like I said, greatest journey of my life. But then one day, we're driving home from a show, it's probably 2, 3 in the morning. I got my headphones on in the back of a Ford Explorer with 6 other people, so it's not very comfortable. My knees and my back would tell you that. But I'm sitting back there, and all of a sudden, I hear God say, you always wanted to write, didn't you? I said, yeah. So look at all this time you have traveling back and forth. Look at all the things you've learned from being in this band. All the people you've met along the way, all the experiences you have lived. Now you have all this time. Start writing. And so I did. That moment, at 2 in the morning, I pulled out a pad, pulled out a pen, and I started writing what would become Beyond the Gate. Now it took me about 2.5 years to write that book. But I did it. And it wasn't an easy task. See, my ADD would always kick in. Every time I would try to write something earlier on in my life, I would always start an idea, and it's like, squirrel. Because another idea would always come along, and I'm excited about this one. I'll put this one to the side. And then I would start the next one, and I never finished anything. So I told this beautiful woman back there, I said, you're going to hold me accountable to this book, because I need to actually accomplish what I believe God gave me, an ability to tell stories, an ability to write, an ability to be creative. And so she did. Anytime I would come to her and say, I got this other idea, nope, finish writing. Yeah, you can tell me about the idea. And so I did. So 2.5 years later, Beyond the Gate was penned. Now, the next thing I want to share, this next picture, is kind of where I see myself, my future goal. Because I still have goals. Even though I have this book, I still have goals. I still have dreams and desires, just like all of you. No, I don't want to be a dog. This is my outlook, my hope. This is Bosco. Everybody say hi to Bosco. Hi, Bosco. Oh. Bosco's 10 years old. He's a black lab. This little puppy cannot speak a word of English. Can't even utter one of the letters in our alphabet. But this puppy, God put into my life to teach me some of the greatest things that I would ever learn. About how to love people unconditionally. See, I grew up in a family that said, oh, I love you, but you have to do it my way. Oh, I love you, but you've got to follow my plan. See, Bosco taught me, whenever I walked into a room, I'm going to love you, and that's it. And I watched him do that with so many other people. Didn't matter what their past was. Didn't matter where they came from, what their situation, what their backstory. None of that mattered. He just loved. There was no favoritism. He didn't love one person greater than the next. There was no judgment. It was just love. Now, on August 26th of last year, Bosco passed away. I was the most broken I'd ever been. And I cried out to God. I said, why? He was healthy. He was young. Had a great life. No stress. Run to the house. He was nice enough to let us stay in his house. And then I said, why? And God said, because she's going to change. So I had to begin to look inward and say, okay, well, what changes do I need to make? Because that's the great thing about life. See, the waves keep coming and going. They don't stop. So life changes. And so we got to change. We got to adapt. We can't stay in the same place all the time. So you guys, you're here today, but you're not going to be here next week or next month or next year. You're going to change. You're going to grow. And that's what I learned. Bosco taught me some very incredible things. He taught me about validation. He taught me to seek the truth before I trust something. See, too often in life, we're so easy and eager to just trust something because it might seem cool or because it might seem like it's going to benefit us or it's going to make us wealthy or maybe it's people. Maybe we just bring everybody into our life and without ever really seeing the truth of who they are, maybe we just give our whole life to them. We tell them our deepest secrets and we give our hearts to them and we do all of these things without ever really knowing the truth. So Bosco taught me to seek the truth. He taught me then, when you do that, you become empowered. Because you're no longer having to fight all these things that are bringing you down. Because you know what the truth is. And you can take account for your life when you do that. You can make a stand. You're like, you know what? I know what's going on. I know where to go from here. And what that does, that brings restoration. Brings restoration to your life. That was something I saw. I'm sure it's something, we went around this room today, I'm sure that's something we all saw, is to be restored. And it brings cleansing. Because all of that junk that was in your life, it's like the ocean, it washes it back out to sea. And you find that you have faith in what's not seen. You don't have to fear what's outside that door and around the corner anymore, because you already know you're on the path you need to be on. And then someday, when you walk that path, you can give witness to where you've been. And you can give witness to how you made it through and how you had to overcome. And that's really what my book, Beyond the Gate, is about. If you think about a fence and a gate, you might be saying, why Beyond the Gate? What's it all about? A fence is a barrier. It's a border. It's either to help keep you in or help keep people out or whatever, but there's a fence. Life puts fences around us. From the moment we enter this world, there's fences. We put them around ourselves. We let people put them around us. There are gates, though. The greatest gate is love. Because you don't have to stay within that fence. Because love has a great path for you. Bosco taught me that. You can step beyond that gate. And you can step into a road, into a path, into a love, into forgiveness, into a freedom, into a hope, into a peace, into a patience that you would never have understood as you stayed through the fence. So, when I sat down to write Beyond the Gate, I wanted to pour all of the things in my life into this. Now, it's a fiction book, so it's not real. Characters are all made up. People ask me all the time, are you so-and-so? Are you this character? I was I'm kind of a mix of all of them, because I kind of wrote it. But it's the concepts that I lived through that I put into this book. The concepts of fear. It's just what this book talks about, because I knew fear. Still struggle with it every day. And so it's about overcoming that fear, stepping outside the gate into love is where you can find fear doesn't exist but up here. And it really doesn't exist if we take it out of here. Because if I don't focus on it, does it really exist? Maybe it's back there, maybe it's not. It's like the ocean, the shark in the ocean. I'm in the 5th grade and I'm dangling there with my feet in the water. Is there something down there or is not? I don't know. See, I made it there, and so I got all scared. That's the incredible thing about fear. But you know what I learned? That my true goal in life was, after writing the book, that my true goal wasn't really to write a book. I enjoy doing it. I'm doing it some more. I've got another book I'm working on right now. But my true goal was not to write a book. My true goal was to be a book. To be a book for people to look at, for people to read, for people to say, wow, I can actually do something with my life. I can be somebody. I don't have to let the past dictate who I am. No, in fact, the sufferings we go through, when we persevere, when we make those choices that Dennis was talking about, that builds our character. It's like the waves. It makes your feet more firm in the ocean. So I learned that it wasn't really to write a book, it was to be a book. So we all have a story to tell. Each and every one of us. It doesn't matter where you started out in life. It doesn't matter where you are at right now in life. You have a story to tell. A story that somebody else needs to read. Maya Angelou, she was a great American author and poet, once said that the greatest agony is bearing an untold story inside of you. See, the fact that we are all here today tells me you guys have a story. You know your story. So tell your story. Don't hide it within. Because somebody wants to read that book. That is your life. The world is watching. The world is ready to read. Give them a book of greatness. Thank you guys so much for